not going to continue watching that shit. There you go.
Okay, so you are live. Okay,
I
hold
can't
on.
watch myself twice. That's too meta.
That's too meta. Okay. Let me check the link and make sure everything's working. This is my first time. Wait, see, it's not working though.
But I just watched it. I don't understand.
I don't understand.
What I pulled up on YouTube was us chatting.
All right, I'm gonna pull it up and see what
It's a
happens.
slight time delay. Don't maybe pull out my tomahawk.
Live, but it says we're streaming. Are we streaming?
I can watch it here.
Okay. Okay.
Although I'll tell you what, now it's frozen. So and I don't know why.
Oh. Yeah, I was saying a 3-person discussion stream and now it's gone.
Yeah, and mine is just kind of frozen here.
I see.
It's a 5-second
see.
clip right now.
Oh, it's a 5-second clip. Yep.
This is awesome. This is great.
Maybe
Okay.
because you can't. Maybe because it went on and then stopped. Maybe we have to do another one, or I don't know.
Well, that would suck if we had to do a whole nother link. I don't think we have to do a whole nother thing here, but clearly it's amateur hour here, but we need some kind of confirmation. Let me check my dashboard here. So I don't have, it says, I can view it on YouTube. Let me do this.
Oh, I see this.
Testing.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Okay, but the question is, I don't think the link is up. I don't think the link is correct now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, a friend of mine wrote and said, "Hey, did I miss it? Oh shit!" So, I'm like, "Oh,
We were so fast.
no."
Blink and you miss it.
So, as a native, we have yet to develop computational technologies. So,
Okay, so there's.
oh wait a second. So now she's saying, "I see you." So, but I don't know if she sees us live. This is-
Okay, well, we'll just have to see how it goes, because I think I messed up with the link. Yeah, that one's not the right one. I think I messed the link up now.
okay.
So that's troublesome.
It's problematic.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to fix my boo-boo right now. So so give me 1 second.
Okay.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. So how y'all motherfuckers doing on this phone evening?
I'm popped up on Mucinex.
Nice.
COVID positive.
Yay! All right. I'll tell you what. For someone COVID positive, you look like you're just looking.
You look glowing.
I say you glow different on COVID.
Yeah.
I was like more symptomatic, like the actual symptomatic, like on Sunday, Monday. But now it just feels like I have allergies and I'm tired.
Okay.
So, but I'm still strongly positive.
Nice. Did you know if you test
Yeah.
positive for COVID and you get a PCR test, you might also have HIV. So
Yeah.
just ask any one of these conspiracy tards, and you'll find all kinds of interesting things out.
It's laced with HIV.
Maybe letting you guys talk amongst yourselves wasn't a good idea.
Look, I'm just dropping mad knowledge from the other side of seancism.
Dropping mad knowledge, is that accurate? Would you all say that is what Brett is doing accurately?
Well,
It's like knowing your Pokemon. It doesn't have any reference to anything in reality, but damn, it's fun all by itself.
Okay, so I am going to, I can't tell if anybody's watching this, so it's just what it is at this point. But if you guys have confirmation that we're good, then let's just go for it.
I mean, I don't think it's.
Okay, we do.
We are visible. So.
We are good. Okay, I can't see the comments, and I wish I could. So this is all a learning process for me to understand. Oh, chat, I have chat here. Okay, so we can see if you type comments in, we should be able to see them. If you have questions,
Oh.
just put them in the chat and I will try to check them periodically. But I think you have to be a subscriber, I'm pretty sure, to be able to comment. So.
And you should be able to turn your phone on. If you could do that, you might be able to make some comments, just saying.
Okay.
Don't listen to me. I'm not supposed to.
Well, I'm clearly not able to do lives. And I had this all planned out. I actually like ran through this once before. I just didn't plan on starting and stopping the live. So.
Okay.
So we're just learning here, people. Ran through this one. Okay. I can see the chat. We're good.
Clearly we need AI, because right now AI would have figured all this stuff out for us.
Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, I want to ask you guys, I've been curious about this. Why did you all agree to do this with me when I asked you to do it? Let me call in Hanny. First of all, before you answer, I want to say, first of all, like kind of the goal and the mission of doing this live is, first of all, I need practice doing this, but that is utilitarian and not interesting as a reason to go live. But the major reason I want to go live is because I adore you all so much and I really appreciate you. And I wanted to make sure that, you know, everybody kind of gets to see how awesome you all are. And I just want to gush about you. And I also want to kind of recap because we did a lot of work and we haven't really come back full circle to tell people about what we did and why we did it and how fun it was and how much love we have for each other and hope we now have for the future. So I'm going to ask you some questions and I'm going to gush about you first and tell everybody why I think you're the best. So starting with Hanna. I met Hanna not too long ago, actually, through Mauro, her boyfriend, who is an amazing oil painter. And when I found out he was following me, I was like, why? But he does these amazing oil paintings of memes, which are culturally iconic and going to leave a huge mark on history, I'm sure. This is just kind of wild, the idea of doing a crazy oil painting of a meme. But Hanna is equally as talented and does, I mean, Mauro is an oil painter, but Hanna can do everything. So Hanna does these amazing physical sculptures and all kinds of things. That's the only work I've seen besides your drawings and your beautiful poetry and writing. And then her readings and voice, I thought, oh my gosh, you have to be on our team. You have to do this voiceover for this piece. So that's why I begged you to be a part of it. So why did you agree to it?
Well, thank you, first of all, for all the kind words. It's very kind. First of all, I was just kind of chuffed to be invited. I was like, because I started following you, Mauro started following you, because obviously we thought your memes were clutch. But I was also like, this lady's really smart and she's cool and she's young. And so when you invited me to be a part of the project, I was just kind of chuffed. I was like, wow, that's really neat. But beyond that, I mean, I kind of held out for quite a while, like a few weeks, because I just kind of had imposter syndrome. I was like, I'm not smart enough in that way, even though I am really smart. But I think it's a mixture of two things. I've been looking for community in a lot of ways, especially online. I have a lot of great online friends, but not necessarily people that kind of like want to put those things into action. And I'm super student, like nerd. I was like the perfect student, like in college and everything. And like, I like studying, I like learning, I like doing all of those sorts of things. And so it seemed like just at first read that it was a group of people that also liked that. And so that was really intriguing to me. Also, you guys were all pretty much strangers. And I was like, well, this is a good opportunity to just dip my toe into something different and not maybe collaborate with people that I've normally collaborated with. And on a project that's like out of my wheelhouse. And then looking more into the project and deciding to join and then joining the conversations and things on Discord, I really wanted to like challenge myself to think critically and creatively about a subject that not that I don't often think about it, but I think I ruminate like negatively about the future and about AI and tech and things like that. And it was really inspiring to see that this was a project that was like explicitly like no dystopian features, please. We're like really trying to build an actual positive world to maybe even look forward to. And that was like the sort of creative challenge that I really wanted to dedicate some time to, and I'm really glad I did.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Is there, Jess, did you want to contribute? Because I'll call on you for this if you want to contribute to that too.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me say amazing things about you. So Jessie is the only person that I knew prior to this year. Jessie was the first person I met in Oregon when I moved there 8 years ago. And I met her through a mom's group. And when I met her, I just knew, first of all, she's so chill, like unbothered, but also brilliant. And to find that combination is rare, first of all, for somebody who can be very smart, very independent, and not easily riled up about things. I don't know. I feel like the smarter you are, the more like riled up you can get and excited about things. So I met her and our daughters became fast friends. And I asked Jessie actually to participate in another project with me when I did the game for Theory Gang. So Jessie actually has they're oil paintings, right? All three of them?
Yes, ma'am.
3 oil paintings she contributed to the game work, and they were amazing and exactly what I wanted. So she's an amazing artist. I think of you as like a homesteader. You would be on my apocalypse team. She also homeschools her children and is so inspiring. Jessie's just kind of like all around amazing person. So, but you keep doing stuff with me. Why? Like you keep doing stuff.
I did it exactly because you asked me to. You've always encouraged me to be a part of things that were not normally on my radar at all. I don't consider myself super smart, I guess. I don't think that I'm a good, I don't know. You just inspire me a lot. I've never had a time where we worked on something where I didn't have a total blast and learn a lot at the same time. So for me, it was just a big learning experience. And much like Hanna, I think about the future, a lot of that sort of AI thing is a very dystopian sort of a thing. And I don't want to do that. I want to think positively about the future because it's totally within our capabilities to do. And I just admire the way that you can bring people together. And as a community, it's almost like we built a little community to build a bigger community, something great, something positive. And so that's why, because you asked me, because I knew that I would learn a lot and I knew that I would have a lot of fun.
Oh man, I'm going to ask you to do all kinds of stuff now that I know you. You just do what I ask. Well, I mean, you know, what am I going to say? I love you guys for doing it. And the newest member of our group, I think, I'm not sure if Rich or Hanna kind of is like the newest, but Rich joined our little book club in the last year. And Rich is a wild card that I'm so glad who found us. You, Mr. Prognosticator,
Procrastinator.
Yeah, he told me actually in our bio to put prognosticator, but he put procrastinator first, and I thought he was being funny. And I don't take us very seriously on this stuff, so I put procrastinator, but he actually corrected it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. But you guys, that's what I love about this group. So Rich joined our book club. And what book were we reading? We're reading Civilized to Death when you joined, Rich?
Yeah, that's where it started.
And he just messaged me and was like, can you help me navigate Discord? Because I want to do your book club. And I was like, yeah, of course. If anybody messaged me and wants to do book club, like, absolutely, I'll help you. And so he got into Discord, he showed up. he read the book, first of all, like who does that? We don't even do that sometimes. But then the insights that Rich had from the first session, I was like, okay, rarely do we have people, like the book club is kind of the inner sanctum of our community. And if you come to book club, like you are all in. And so Rich came all into this, and he just has consistently contributed and impressed me. And he has all this intelligence and passion and compassion that I love having you part of our group. So
thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely glad to be a part of it. That's part of what drove me to be a part of the world building program. It seemed like, as Hanna said, not having a vision of the future that wasn't dystopian and was oriented around more communal and positive aspects of humanity in conjunction with AI. It was a very inspiring vision to try and drive towards. And the layers of work that were required to put together this project, being able to interface with you guys, specifically Nat, Brett, Jess, Hanna, it was a very, again, I hate to overuse this term, but inspiring process. It made me feel hopeful about the world, to know that there are good people out there who have similar ideas, or maybe not the same idea, but one that would be in conjunction with or fit well with some of my own personally held beliefs about how I want to see the future look. Mm-hmm. So it was a great time. In the process itself was a little bit rigorous at times, balancing, work and home life stuff for all of us, as well as trying to contribute to this. And we pulled it together pretty well. I was very impressed with everyone. I always feel like I'm a mental midget in a room of giants. And, you guys can say what you want about that, but for the most part, it's great to just sit back and sort of let you guys all bounce great ideas around and absorb them, process them, and try to put something forth of my own that feels like it's relevant or salient. So it was a great experience.
Awesome. What was your favorite part? What was like a kind of a moment or like a piece of the application that you were like, hell yeah?
Seeing the media piece was really inspiring. Everybody that worked on it did an amazing job, you ladies especially. And I think the last part where we were kind of pulling it all together and going through the editing process, getting the timeline in order, that was a really great experience. Just being able to play around with the ideas of what the future would look like and put a timeline together that would make sense to get us to a world that would be much better through the use of AI as well as through our own efforts.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, like that last timeline session, I would say like up to the gun when we were crunching on the timeline and random people from other teams were kind of joining in our Discord, and I was like, you guys, I'm gonna kill you, Brett. If you go on one more tangent, I'm gonna kill you. Like that was probably my favorite moment of the whole process, was like the end, the culmination. Speaking of El Jefe, Brett, so I want to ask you, what in our application inspired you the most? What piece of the future are you looking forward to the most that we kind of configured?
Well, that's difficult because when we imagined this, we had to consider a whole gamut of different kinds of technological advancements that would kind of all come together to resolve in what I think our stories were. So I feel like the story is really the most inspiring thing, because I imagine a future in which technology and humanity are maybe for the first time since the Industrial Revolution actually symbionts. So for the moment, I kind of look at so much of what we do as replication, all these ideas about things like productivity and how quickly you might be able to do certain things, but also your replaceability, make you a kind of analog to a machine. And I see AI as something other than that, which would liberate us to be more fully human in ways that are kind of suppressed by the need to do very routine kind of work that I think impedes human creativity. So for me, it's really, what is it going to be when we get there? It's all the stuff that leads up there, and then that ultimate landing spot, which of course is just the beginning of other things.
So I know this is a hard question, but so you're talking about pretty much the future of work and what that's going to look like, basically working less. So we kind of came up with a 20-hour work week is what we imagine will happen in the future with the help of AI. Besides getting to that point through technological progress, what kind of social progress do you think we're going to need to see to get there? Like we wrote some legislation in there. The legislation was more geared towards other things, but we're going to need a change of mindsets. And what do you think that looks like?
Are you asking me? Well, let's see. Well, I think among the most important things will be the right to the ownership of our own data. So we came up with a couple of points at which that ownership would be transferred to us. And right now, yes, you get some free services, but you also get a lot of entrapments for profiting just by doing things to manipulate you psychologically to stay online in a sphere that doesn't really do much to enrich you. And very often when you leave it, you feel somehow more hollow than you did when you started. With the exception of real interactions and projects and things like book club and so forth. Very often, most of my time spent online is wasted and someone is profiting off of that.
Yep. Does anybody else want to chime in about maybe some of the pieces of the timeline that we might have put in that, if you don't, I'll talk about it, but that kind of set up the pick for that role? In a sense, sorry to use a basketball metaphor. I don't know why I do that.
That was great.
But what in our timeline are some key events, or even maybe ones that we didn't get to put in that will have to happen for us to be owning our own data? It's open for anyone.
I think the parts where we discussed legislation oriented around basically personal data ownership and having the rights to your data. Anyone that's collecting your data has to report it. You have to then consent to it. And then you can then, utilize your data in various spaces like DAOs or via certain smart contracts, where anytime your information is used to their ends, you get a cut. That's pretty critical. I think we're actually moving towards a space societally where we're recognizing how much of our data is being chipped away at by these large companies and utilized for things that we don't even realize is happening. And we need to gain control over that, rein that in, because otherwise we're never going to be able to get out of the trap of being marketed to directly and having our specific finer details of our life used in ways against us that we have no control over.
Yeah, I was actually in a meeting with Cabin, one of the DAOs that I did a little bit of work for after building this application. And we were talking about ways that people can get paid. And we actually came up with some ideas that kind of sound a little bit scary to me, which leads me to talk a little bit about privacy. So if you think about everything on the blockchain, it's all open and available. So if all of our data is out in the open, and it's not all of our data, but you can trace things back to wallets and exchanges, it's going to be really tricky and interesting to figure out how we can use that data for good rather than just allowing it to be freely available to corporations. So that's something I was thinking about. But maybe I'll shift gears a little bit to talk about education a little bit. So one of the things we thought would change drastically in the next 20 years is going to be the way that people move through the educational system in general in the US and globally. But Jesse, do you maybe want to talk about some of the things that you hope will happen and some of the things in our application in terms of education?
I just really like that we can use AI to help us figure out, what we might be better put in a position to be able to do, like what we can follow our passions, we can follow our dreams the most, like kind of taking everybody's strengths, finding out what they're best at, what they're good at, and putting them down a path of education where they're not going to feel like they've wasted their life at the end. Something that really surprised me about doing all of this was just even learning that that's a possibility, something like being able to own our own data, stuff like that. I think just being able to do something like that is going to directly contribute to getting away from the 9-to-5 grind. And imagine a world where we have the time and the space to follow what we want to educate ourselves in, or what our community needs us to be educated in, so that we can be helpful in our community and feel like we're doing something worth our life in a way. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to have a future where everybody can contribute good and just positively. And I don't know, I think that's awesome. That surprised me a lot, just to know that there are aspects of this world that just these little things that you can do, like owning our own data, that can just facilitate so much freedom and so much gratification. Just being able to stay human, not being, sucked into a life of just technology, but keeping it at the core, like our humanity, not losing that, keeping that in our education.
Yeah, I mean, so you have 2 young girls. What kind of training do you think? I see you and Pete doing all kinds of very practical learning lessons with the girls all the time. I mean, even just in our media piece, we used just a fraction of the clips you gave me, but you're teaching them how to grow things, how to build things with their hands. What would you say? I know you teach them discipline through Taekwondo and stuff like that. It's really inspiring, but what kind of technical things do you think you'll teach the girls moving forward?
Well, even just doing this project with you, I mean, I've had to ramp up my own ability to really learn stuff. I've had such a good time learning like DaVinci Resolve and video editing and stuff. I think that as we go through schooling with the girls, as they get a little bit more advanced, and we do lots of stuff on the computer too, but most of their education right now, because they're young, is really hands-on. A lot of it's very outdoor. And I just think that as they grow up, as they get older, the need for them to be researching more, discovering more, doing more reports on their own, all that stuff is just going to flow. I just know it's going to flow perfectly together. Like we just, you wake up one day, I have to do a report on this, I need to research this. And you just go, how am I going to do that? And you figure it out. You just go through the process of figuring it out. And I don't know, there's no real, I guess there's not really a good answer. To me, I feel like I just wing a lot of it. I wing a lot of it. And I think that is just beautiful to be able to go into any situation, whatever the task or whatever the thing that you have to complete is, and to just go, I don't have any skills towards this yet, but I'm going to get them. And I know how to get them because I have all this technology, all this knowledge at my fingertips. And I can teach myself, I can learn. And if I can't teach myself, I will find somebody to help me. And if I can't teach my kids a certain skill, I will find somehow that we can all learn it together.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we've been doing in our entire homeschool journey, is just learning how to do it all together.
I think that's the biggest part of the future of learning is autodidact, where that's like the key word, I think, is teaching people how to learn on their own and learn something with a bit of assistance. But I think we're headed there. And that's not to say we don't want communal learning and things like that, and social learning, which obviously we're all still doing, but lifelong as well.
And then you never stop when you
Right.
feel, when you're in a situation like that, you just don't ever have to stop, and you feel good about it, and you never want to stop. Every day you learn something new.
So one of the things we talked about with the educational system, just for anybody who is interested, is we imagine 3 tracks for higher learning. I imagine there will be kind of a more academic track still with universities, where I don't think Harvard's going anywhere, but I do think a lot of the universities that are kind of popping up, there's for-profit ones, there's kind of these state universities, the way funding is going, I think a lot of those are going to fall off. And I think there's going to be 3 tracks of learning. One is this kind of more erudite academic learning. And then the other will be a community kind of a learning situation where you go in and intend on doing things like in a nonprofit Web3 communal kind of environment. So that'll be more focused on compassion and social emotional development, and then a vocational tract, which is, I think, where most people will fall, because we will need a lot of field service engineers, and people will basically get certifications on certifications from either the companies that they work for or some of these universities that are going to be still in existence. So it'll be constant, credentialing throughout. So go ahead.
Different layers of credentialing along the way. And I think one of the beautiful things, I just wanted to say this about what Jess is doing, is that, look, when you're in most of the education system, and I would even include right up until the point where you get into something like graduate school, except for some very specific STEM related projects, you aren't really taught much about thinking and finding things out for yourself. You're taught things, you're given the texts, you're taught to learn to take a test. How much of that have you assimilated and learned to think critically about in any way? How much of that has contributed to your creativity or even to your soul as a human being? And you're already giving that to your family. And in a way, you're already living what I would hope the future of humanity would be, and maybe what it always was until we started making ourselves into, slaves of mechanization.
Yeah, I mean, look at her sitting there in front of Mount St. Helens, like.
That's King Mountain.
Which one is it?
That's going to
King
erupt.
Mountain in Alaska.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It looks a little Helensy from here, but I was like, not quite sure. But it's beautiful.
That's right in front of my grandmother's cabin.
Oh my gosh, I can't stand you. You're so wholesome.
That's it. I'm moving out to wherever you are.
So Hanna, what was well, you can pick between two questions. What was the hardest part about this, or what surprised you about doing this? You can choose either question.
It's funny because I thought about it and they dovetailed right together. So I'm ready for this.
You didn't even prepare.
I'm such a good student. I did. I mean, look, I'm such a nerd. Like, I can't help it.
You're amazing.
Well, the hardest part, I think, just goes back to feeling like I'm in over my head, not feeling super competent or well-spoken about the prompts or about the different facets about like AGI or what the potential of AGI even looks like, because I myself have always been sort of like a Luddite and like painfully so, and like have sort of like hindered myself in some ways by being like, I don't need to learn Photoshop like as an artist. Like, yeah, you probably should, because you have to photograph your work, and and so just being able to sort of like think abstractly about those things was very challenging to me, but it made me stretch my brain. I liked to sit in and listen to y'all. I'm Texan, but to sit in and listen to the different sort of potentialities and how they really are sort of abstract. It's not just like everything's going to be this like atomized social media version of tech that is what we see and is most prevalent. And so the hardest part sort of turned into the best or the most special part, or it's sort of to dovetail together, because it sort of became almost like this little like macro micro of like the world we were building, like our little group in itself. Because in doing the stretching and the figuring out, okay, how do I, as like a poet and a writer and an artist, how do I contribute to this project? It gave me a way to channel my gifts into a project that maybe I wouldn't have tackled before, and how to sort of breathe life and texture into the technical. And that was really satisfying. And it was also, like we've continued to say, it was really inspiring, because it was really lovely to see how 5 individuals can bring together their innate gifts, kind of what I wrote about in the voiceover poem, in order to build something bigger than themselves and to serve a higher purpose. And so it was cool because like as we were building the world, we were doing the work as individuals too. We were kind of doing it alongside the project, and that's super inspiring to me. I'm currently reading this amazing book that would have been probably really helpful to talk about during this, called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible by Charles Einstein. He's brilliant, this guy. And he talks a lot about how sort of that same sort of paradox of being like, well, you know, it's the actions of the individual that change the world. Oh, but not all the individuals want to do the action, so then nothing's going to change. And he really hammers home that, like, no, the little things, even if your writing doesn't get published, or you're not in a book on the New York Times bestseller or anything like that, you just infusing your gift into the little space you occupy in the world does change the world. It is like the butterfly effect. And so I would say that yeah, the hardest part was also the most special part of it.
Oh, okay. I did not know this was going to feel so like inspiring and emotional, but I should have known if I invited you. We have this game, Hannah and I, of like who can make each other cry, and she always wins. I suck at maybe like crying emoji laughing.
I should try to make me and Rich cry. That would be.
Yeah, I can. Okay, I got one for Rich. Okay, I got one for Rich. So Rich, I have a question for you. I think you probably have a little, like, the most probably different political views than probably the rest of us. I think you have a little bit, you might be, maybe not me, because I think I tend to like really dip my full body in like the super progressive pond sometimes. But we've gotten a lot of criticism, not we, me, I shield all of it because I post all kinds of crap. We've gotten a lot of criticism, and actually we got a comment from someone on Instagram, and I hate that I have to give them credit for this, but they said, you know, most based Instagrammer, theorygrammer to globo homo shill or something like that. And so I can't let it go that I had some concerns about doing this work, even though I know Max, you know, who is the Future of Life Institute kind of founder and head. All these NGOs, I feel like, have the same problem, that they are super neoliberal and barely, incrementally increase things. Maybe they increase things more than I think, or more than we think. But what do you think about this? How do you take that comment? How do you feel about it? Do you feel like the work we did, you know, like Hannah's saying, is even if it's a tiny bit, it makes a difference? What do you think about this?
The work we did was definitely more in that progressivist, at the same time, like a reversion to older ideas about how to construct a family or society, maybe traditionalist in a certain sense, but really more of that communal space, and engaging it with ways to help and aid everyone. I'm big on mutual aid. I'm big on, I don't want to say maybe anarcho-communism, but definitely
cynicalism.
I'm cynical. I'm anti-establishment, and I feel like doing for yourself is the best way to do it. So I really look up to Jess and her family when it comes to that kind of a thing. It doesn't feel like the world is moving in that direction. We're definitely, like Hannah was kind of saying, atomizing more. We're getting more confined into these very strict spaces when it comes to economics, and I don't know, the class structures are becoming more rigid. The movement and the ability to sort of like climb up is becoming reduced. And that's not really what America or freedom should have ever been about. But beyond that, even still, like you look back at the history of America and whatever, that's not what the point of it is. We should not be in the place we're in. We should be the beacon on the hill where anyone can climb up and get to the top if they so put the work in. And we're not a meritocracy in the way that we should be any longer. And I feel like with the advent of AI, if people can put the work in and figure out how to utilize it for themselves, they can make whatever version of utopia that they want for their own space and their own community, with the help of people that are around them, like-minded or not. Like, everyone's going to be pulling towards the same goals, hopefully, if you're in the community. And I don't know how to react maybe to people that would say that you went from based to hard left or something like this, because that doesn't really seem accurate. I think you are more likely to just hold a mirror up to society and watch the trends as they happen and make fun of them either way, which is sort of where I am when it comes to that. But yeah, I don't think that what we did was essentially progressive in as much as it was humanist.
I agree. And I think this is evident not only in the structure of our team, like what an island of beautiful misfit toys we are here, but I think it's also evident in our application. And I pray to God that they saw the Easter eggs that we put in there, that Rich put in there. So in the timeline, you can't see it now, it's up on their website, but in the timeline, we had an Excel spreadsheet and you can link things to it. So we would link references to metrics, GDP metrics, also evidence that we saw that, when we believe like augmented reality will come out, or things like we talked about autonomous weapons. So we linked some national security type documents that are freely available towards, the definition of lethal autonomous weapons. But Rich was hilarious, because on the last night or two, when we were going through checking all the links, I asked Rich, will you be like our, kind of link checker and find, I'm going to tell you what I want, go and find me this link, because I can't remember which one it was. So he put in a link to wish.com under this one piece of legislation. I think it was either the data sovereignty or the internet access for all. But
it was when the Democrats reassumed control of the House and the Senate.
Oh yeah,
they're going to win that election. Well, yeah, that's wish.com. I don't see that happening.
and the income inequality, which was a big thing that people online seem to be, at least on Instagram, seem to have a lot of. There's a whole thread still happening as we speak on my Instagram post about income inequality and whether it's fine or not good. Obviously, we don't like all of the income inequality, and we want there to be less of it, but we want there to be more of the pie for everyone, like less of a zero-sum game. That's the ideal, right? But we were talking about income inequality, and you linked, because we were saying something about some piece of the application, I wish I could remember, but we were saying this was mostly going to be symbolic, like a symbolic measure. And you linked the picture of AOC in that stupid tax for rich dress.
It's a work of genius.
I feel like maybe we might have gotten knocked down a few pegs on that one. I shouldn't have trolled them.
Like, honestly, I don't care. It was worth it.
We approached the application like human beings.
Yes.
Yes.
Just being yourself.
Exactly. So then let's see. I don't think Brett, I've asked you. What do you think? I'm going to ask you the same question. I don't know how much longer we're going to stay on, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I didn't see any questions. If you guys see any questions, let me know. But Brett, I want to ask you the same question I asked Rich. What do you think? Is what we're doing like futile? I mean, is the WEF going to just, do what they're going to do? Are we all going to own nothing in 2030? Like, is this, what is this? How do you feel about
own nothing and you're going to like it? Yeah.
You're going to like it. Yeah.
Who's your daddy?
Klaus.
I don't think it's futile. And the reason I don't think it's futile is that much like, the science fiction that I grew up on, where you see everything dystopian, every narrative you ever see is about something taking control, something overpowering you, something about the fragility of the human spirit, how easily broken and enslaved we'll be. And what we're doing by participating in this is offering a bright and beautiful counter narrative that if people pay close enough attention, they might find themselves yearning for in a way that will push back against some of what's being fed from it to you by things like the WEF. And then maybe, if we all want it bad enough, we can find ways to make it happen. So I think this is not only not futile, it's anti-futile. It is exactly what needs to be done. If we don't free the imaginations of people to envision a better future for themselves in which we can be more fully human, then maybe in the absence of a vision, we will all just collapse under the weight of the things that are already in motion. So no, I don't think this is futile at all.
Well, of course you don't. Of course you don't. I'm glad I asked you that question because I feel like any one of us might have been like, hey, well, I had to ask you because you always bring the strength of and the certitude. If you watch the podcast, you know Brett always tells us when we're wrong.
I also booted the spies out when they came into our group trying to see what our answers were at the last minute.
You did weed out the spies. You did.
Don't get out.
Brett brings all the toxic masculinity to the group.
That's
Thank
right.
God.
So I'm gonna go take some steroids after this.
So what would y'all say to people if they do another contest or if there's something else like this? There are a lot of opportunities. Like I found a lot of opportunities through the London Writers Salon. There's a lot of little communities that not only is this part of our application, but I've found and we have seen starting to grow in Discords and in online communities, in comment sections, in group threads. What would you say to people in these little communities, and anyone can take this, when they feel like it's futile or it's not going to make a difference or they don't know enough or someone's going to do better? Like, does any of you have like a good takeaway or a good kind of thought about that?
I mean, there's always somebody smarter around the corner and somebody bigger, badder, tougher, more beautiful, whatever metric you want to use. It's just about having faith in yourself and knowing that your ideas are strong enough or that they make enough sense. And if you work on them and flesh them out, you can come up with something beautiful.
About the hubris, like I'm working right now on an effective altruism kind of fellowship. And even myself, I'm asking for myself, why should we put stuff out there? Like, what do I know about the world? Who am I to say what things should be like? Not only that, but then what if it actually comes true and I'm feeling responsible for it? Did any of you have this moment and how did you overcome it?
I didn't feel hubristic. I think that's absurd, and that might be toxic femininity. So I had to say that out loud. I think when you look at all the different things that had to come together to synthesize this world, and I mean, we talked about even little minutia of technology and different kinds of legislation and the kinds of things that would drive early adoption of things and so forth. I feel like what we did, again, just going back to what Jess does and what Hanna was talking about, and it's human to be able to think about the world. We've been told for how long that, and certainly since before any of us were born, that someone else has the answers, that someone does know things. You have to go to school to learn what the answers already are. But those answers don't tell you what the future can be. And the innate capacity for human beings to think about things creatively, for survival, for their successors and so on ad infinitum is already there. And it's been suppressed. And so this isn't hubris at all. This is just an expression of the human urge to think about what's possible and see the good in others and to put it out there in the world. So that's not hubris at all.
Totally.
Oh, I love it. That's so sweet. We've got some sweet comments over here. Thank you guys. I'm seeing the comments. Someone really loves you, Rich.
That was me. Rich. That was me.
Yeah. So, and someone said the blue pill is looking mighty delicious. And I think it's funny because like on one podcast episode, my favorite quote, and I'm actually going to make a meme about it. It's going to be like a staple, but Brett said, "I'm fuck your pill." And I think we are all fuck your pill. Like the irony we can also come to, but I agree. I didn't expect this to feel so warm and fuzzy. We worked hard. It was a lot of work. And I think, I had to, I'm sorry, I had to like come in the group chat sometimes and be like, you guys, like, your thing is due.
Someone had to herd the cats.
Yeah.
But, gosh, like it just really, I think it really bonded us for sure as a group. And I would love to do more stuff like this. I love we did this concept of co-creating. We made something amazing together. And so I would love for more people to do stuff like this. And I'm kind of planning on trying to find other ways for people to co-create things and do things like this. So if anybody out there thinks of these things, please tell us, and we'll probably try to get other teams and other people together. But we have another comment. I'm very impressed by the detail in your timeline, the beauty of the videography, art, and writings. What would you like to see transpire that you may not have mentioned previously? Thank you, Leah. And the timeline, I'm so sorry, I messed up the early stream, but it's on World Build. I'm gonna put it in the chat here in a second, so you'll see it. I will put it there in 1 second once I answer this question. But what would we like to see transpire that we didn't have in our application? Is there something? I think for me, and then y'all can say what you want. I don't think we put enough about climate. Because there are some serious climate catastrophes that are going to happen, and they're going to continue to happen as more people live in extreme areas and areas that are going to be susceptible to these things. So we didn't talk much about that kind of stuff and how we'll be able to handle that. But what do y'all think?
I think there's a granularity there that's hard to access just with how much of the scope of everything we were looking at. There were specific details oriented around agriculture and aspects of like travel and stuff like that that could try and lead towards a lessened impact on our environment and actually like a helping or a healing aspect. But yeah, that would be definitely something to dig into more, and ways to help via AI, trying to negotiate the ways that we can sink some more carbon or move away from fossil fuels completely. And I think a lot of that comes from the nature of work too. If we're able to reduce the amount of work that we have to do where we're traveling long distances to get there, or getting our food quicker from farm to table, those are our ideas that would help immediately. Tremendous impact. So
that's 2 for Team Globo Homo.
I'd like to say one small thing about that. And one of the things that we struggled with, and I think that the biggest struggle was that we're only talking about just over 20 years into the future. And so you're not looking at, where is the tipping point for what's going to happen? Where is this a potential calamity that's going to actually bring things to the brink of some kind of decimation, where people have to live in like much more dense locales in order to survive, or something like that. So some of the struggle with this really was just trying to keep your thoughts to a very small time frame, and a time frame so tiny that, how many of us are, have lived long enough to even know what 20 years looks like as adults. It's almost impossible to conceive of that, and then to think that far out, but then not to think about either dystopia or absolute utopia that sounds like something that happens in 200 years. So while there wasn't enough maybe about climate in there, we did at least begin to address some of the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and some issues. I know we talked about them. I have to look back at the timeline concerning what's happening in the oceans. And again, this is a very complex issue. So you reach a point where at a certain level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but that also triggers things like warming of the ocean, that then triggers a kind of acidification, and then the cascade of things begins to is rapidify a word? It accelerates. So it becomes faster, and it becomes so fast and so blinding that it's almost like perhaps a nuclear bomb has hit you, and you won't even know it until you're already basically extinct.
Yeah, I mean, one of the more controversial things we did talk about with the climate is zero fishing laws. I think there was like late in the 2030s, we said there has to be no more fishing in the oceans, because that's really the only way to stop illegal drag netting and things like that, which is drag netting, I think, is one of the biggest issues. my husband wants to go live on a liveaboard and do coral reef restoration and research when he retires. But that's what he thinks is the biggest thing is keeping the oceans alive, because that's critical. So we did talk about some things, but we talked a lot about technology and Web3. I would say our application became very centered around that technology, because we thought there's a lot of potential to help people with data, a lot of things. There's a lot of, and I know everybody tends to think blockchain and Web3 are not just a fix all, but I really do think there's quite a bit to be done, because we're already headed towards global kind of surveillance and things like this. So anybody who says, oh, it's going to decrease privacy, like privacy is already going away. So
privacy doesn't exist as it is.
Right.
If you believe that there is anything that's private right now, you are, well, as delusional as a child believing in Santa Claus.
So Emeka asked, can intelligence actually ever be truly artificial? So I don't think any of you except Brett were around when we read Max's book. So Max Tegmark, the person who started the Future of Life Institute, he actually wrote a book called Life 3.0. And so he's talking about what exactly is intelligence? What is artificial intelligence? What is artificial super intelligence? And Life 3.0 was kind of defined as the ability to recreate not only your own software, meaning to be able to learn things, but also to be able to fix your hardware, which is your body, autonomously. So this is what he's talking about as we move on to Life 3.0 and artificial intelligence. I don't know if that's exactly the question you were asking, but that is, I think, what I think of when I think of life or intelligence, and you said 2.0, it just reminded me of that. But we really didn't get too technical on the artificial intelligence side of things. I don't even know if we need to. DeepMind and all the OpenAI, they and Tesla, they working on it. Miri, they're working on it. So I don't think we needed to get too technical on that kind of stuff. But I think the final question, and then we'll wrap up. What scares you the most about the future and maybe even AI? What's your biggest fear?
One of my biggest fears would be scarcity. We're moving towards a version of carrying capacity that's going to be exacerbated by climate change. And, things are going to be difficult to come across. To be able to get things you need, you're going to have to be self-sufficient. That includes having your own farms, being able to make your own repairs. I'm also, I guess, concerned when it comes to AI, allowing it to make decisions more readily, as opposed to having it be like a conjunction between or an augmentation of AI's insights into our decision-making process, letting them just run the show. And that's just trouble, because when you lose the humanistic touch, there's less nuance, less room for people that have made mistakes to be able to make things right, or, making that tough decision that comes down to purely cold mathematical calculation that says that that person has to die and that person gets to live, and here's their value judgment why, and it's based on metrics and tests that aren't fair or aren't realistic. So that's one of my bigger fears, I guess, is when we reach towards that singularity point and AI becomes more human, or it becomes harder to tell what's human and what's not, we start to have things running the show that are not us at all.
I think you kind of answered the question the way I framed it, but I also want to, and you also answered what I intended without me actually asking it. I want to talk about your biggest fears, but I also want to talk about what in our application will prevent those things from happening. So you mentioned people need to be able to grow their own foods and things like that. And we did talk about modular farming being an important thing. And then we also talked about rules and legislation and international legislation, so to speak, or treaties, to where governments cannot be ran by artificial intelligence. corporations may be run by artificial intelligence, but hopefully we'll be moved more into a co-op type of a market eventually anyways. But I think, there needs to be global coordination around what is cool and what ain't cool, kind of like how there is now with wars and nuclear deterrence and things like that. So anyone else want to take a stab at that question? Not only your biggest fear, but what in our application is going to prevent that from coming true?
I guess my biggest
go.
fear would be that there wouldn't be one. There wouldn't be a future, or that it would be some sort of dystopia, that we would be so sucked into our technology that we wouldn't, have our humanity really. But just because of those types of laws, it keeps the AI as a tool that we use. It's just a hammer that we can pick up and use and to build communities and to build the world that we want to see. It's not something that can take us over or be something that we can't tell if it's human or AI or something like that. It's our tool for us to use. It's not something that uses us. And when I think about, when I think about the world that we live in today, that was all shaped by people sitting around thinking stuff up about how they wanted the world to look like and how they wanted it to be. And then that's why I think something like this is so not futile, because we're just thinking stuff up and we're just bringing more awareness to that aspect. Two heads are better than one. Like, it's great to bring more awareness to that. I think that we could get there. I think that is exactly the way to go about it, is by doing projects like this and bringing awareness to it.
Hannah, what were you going to say?
Sorry, Hannah.
Yeah, no, gosh, no. I was just going to sort of echo like the fear, like scarcity is a big one for me too, but like scarcity plus atomization and like the rocky and sort of unclear road to coming back together. That feels really scary when you couple it with scarcity and of course climate things. But I think, again, it sounds sort of like idealistic and silly, but investing in the community you're in, or building the community that you want, however is possible, because it is getting harder and harder to say like just buy land and have a farmstead or something like that. But I think that's the goal of so many of us, and I know it's echoed in a lot of my friends and things like that want to be able to purchase land and start a farmstead and then have their families and friends be able to come and live and that is the sort of thing where it's like you're bringing community back together in a sort of small way. You're pooling your resources and the things that you understand. So maybe someone is a mechanic and can still, knows how to fix things, and someone is an electrician and knows how to, wire a building or whatever is going to be, important, how to care for animals, how to regenerate soil, all of these things. And so again, it's the answer. And what was another sort of inspiring thing about the project is that world that we're trying to build is like the world that we're all sort of yearning for. It is the more beautiful world that we know in our hearts is possible, like that author says. And it starts with the sort of individual actions in a collective. And yeah, I mean, I think the only option is to just keep pressing in. What else can we do?
Right on. Yeah. And I think people are afraid of the word collectivism or collective, because I'm an individual. I know y'all are individuals. Like, I don't want nobody annoying me, bothering me, but I think there is a way to have a community without it feeling intrusive. I mean, there really is. Like, if you live in a city, there's probably a homeless person that sleeps on your doorstep. It's like, why not have your friend, like in your backyard? Well, it's kind of, that was a bad example, but
unless they don't clean up, because that always sucks.
But I don't know. That was one thing that scared me about our application a little bit, is I was like, oh, it's starting to feel a little communal, like a little bit too communal. But then I realized, I mean, as always, I hate to say it, but our application had to be plausible. One of the things I think is that money will buy in the future is individuality. It will buy you the ability to remain completely sovereign. But at the same time, I don't think we really want that atomization. I don't think most of us actually want to be as solo as we say we want to be. Like, I love being around all y'all. I mean, I I don't want y'all living in my domicile, but like, if y'all lived on my block, I would love it.
Block party every day.
Yeah.
And live in your bathroom.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm not
sorry.
afraid. I'm not afraid of that, because I think you don't have to choose that.
Well,
But Brett,
and
what?
I think the
Yeah.
atomization that we, oh, so sorry, you want to?
No, I was going to ask you what are you afraid of, and how do
jumping
we?
in on the conversation.
Yeah.
I love everything everybody said, and I'm really really aligned with Rich on the things to be concerned about when it comes to whether or not AI winds up being a servant to, and an aid to man, or if we wind up losing control. I always think that we will be in a kind of spy versus spy world in which, for instance, the current manifestation of warfare over in Europe shows you exactly what the limits of deterrence of any kind really are, and AI will do nothing to stop that, I don't think. And so this is a perennial risk that we will never escape, AI or not. So you already have the example of the worst case scenario right there. Just imagine that spreads throughout the world. And then when it comes to being communal, I think the reason it is exactly what we're missing. We're a communal species. When you think about what we're supposed to be, there is no individual, just you. There is us in some way. It's how we survive in the world. It is the superpower of our species to be able to collectivize and come up with ideas that nothing else can, on scales and complexity that were impossible in any other species before us. And while there is a tendency to want some alone time, I have lots of that. I'm kind of like a nice ambivert. I love being around people, and what has the pandemic experience taught you but that being alone very often, except for some select people who have maybe tendencies that are a little bit more on the psychopathic end of the scale, perhaps, who don't necessarily like people so much and are happy that we all just get the hell away from them. We're all missing our connections. We're missing our families. We missed our friends. How much depression increased because we were alone. Individualism is possible only if it emerges from a safe and deeply connected sense of community and belongingness and family. And so if you don't realize that that's what underpins you as an individual, you're missing something fundamental to the human psyche.
Word.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. Well said. I love it. I love it. Well, I think that's it for us. I really appreciate everybody who is watching, everybody tuned in to hang out and chit chat with us. I'm sorry again for my technical inabilities. I will get better. But yeah, so if you want to check out the application, I put it in the comments. If you want to read more about it, it's there. Obviously, our YouTube video, I'll try to link here as well within this after I edit it. And yeah, make sure you follow all of us on social media and keep up with what we're doing. And we'll keep you posted if we actually win a cash prize. Can you imagine how cool? So we'll find out June 20th. But yeah, so I think now let me figure out how to end this thing. I don't see any more questions.
You were good at it in the beginning.
Let me make sure I know how to end it. Okay, I think I know how to end it, but let me make sure there are no more questions. I don't think so.
Totally good comments in there, but yeah.
Yeah,
I think we covered it all pretty well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everybody. And that's it. I guess. Well, I'll see y'all later.
Take care.
Later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
We'll figure out. I still don't know how to stop it, so you guys can sign off.